Assalamu alaikum. We've been here before. 21 years ago, we were right here when another student from CUNY Maritime was being expelled from school and being put into deportation proceedings because he was a Nigerian Muslim, Suleiman Olatakun. We were also here 24 years ago, right outside of Federal Plaza, when hundreds of men stood outside in lines starting at 5 a.m. because they came from Muslim countries and the government forced them to register because they were from Muslim countries. We were here 24 years ago when Farouk Abdul Mahdi, one of the most prominent Palestinian activists, was targeted for being outspoken for the Palestinian struggle in the aftermath of 9/11. And he was targeted, he was detained into prisons in New Jersey and then put into deportation proceedings. There's a saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And we keep finding ourselves in these same patterns. The same forces come to power. They say they practice the same ways. The mix of xenophobia, of Islamophobia, of elite capitalism, of imperialists, of white supremacists, of Christian nationalists. These are the forces that we're up against. And it is important for us to be out here and confront them every step of the way. We were also here 8 years ago, almost exactly 8 years ago, when the first Muslim ban was announced. And people were caught in the airports. And we were first in the airports, outside the airports, and then we came here. Very likely, tomorrow, the next travel ban will be announced. Again, listing several Muslim countries alongside Cuba and Venezuela. Are we going to stand by idly and let it happen? Fuck no. So it is very important for us to be out here on the streets, to be in solidarity with each other, to show that we stand against what's happening. But it's even more important what happens when we go back home. When we go back to our schools, we need a lot more people to be organized. We need a lot more people to be out here. We need to go back and organize in our schools, organize in our apartment buildings, organize in our neighborhoods, organize in our martial arts clubs, in our bowling leagues, in our knitting club. We need millions and millions of people to be active and engaged, because fascists don't listen to reason.
No, they don't.
Fascists don't listen to morality. Fascists don't care about protests. Fascists don't care about what the media will cover. Fascists have to be confronted by numbers that show that they will be defeated. And it is on every one of us to help build those numbers. If you came out here and you're not a part of an organization, I highly recommend that you join one. If you can't join an organization, build a group of people in your school, in your neighborhoods, in your mosque, in your church, and get organized. The only way we beat fascists back is in the streets through confrontation and showing them that we are more powerful than them. So lots of love, lots of solidarity to all of you for being out here today. We hope to continue to see you next time with more people, with new faces out every time. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Thank you. ICE off our campus now!
ICE off our campus now!
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
ICE off our campus now!
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 That's right. ICE off our campuses right now. We need ICE off our campuses right now. And we need freedom for Mahmoud Khalil right now. And as the last speaker said, as Fahad said, that's only going to happen through organization and through increasing our organization. I'm going to call up now someone to address us who knows a lot about organization, Brian Becker from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Sisters and brothers, just a little while ago, Donald Trump took to social media to celebrate the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, to make it clear that the Trump administration intends to go through with this illegal kidnapping and deportation. They intend to go through with this. The reason Trump had to get personally involved and go to social media is because more than 1 million people in the last day have signed that statement demanding the release and freedom of Mahmoud Khalil. 1 million people. I think we have to sort of reflect on the moment that we're in and understand how serious this actually is. This will be, I believe, the epic battle. Donald Trump, if he can succeed with the arrest, kidnapping, and deportation of students exercising First Amendment rights to speak up and to speak out, if he gets away with this, he believes that he can suppress the immigrant rights movement, the labor movement, the women's movement, the LGBTQ movement. He feels that if they can win here, that this will be beginning of the right-wing political dictatorship that the billionaires actually want.
They're not going to win.
This is what they actually are trying to achieve. And I think we have to make it clear to them that the 1 million people who supported Mahmoud in the last day will turn into 10 million and 20 million and 30 million people to say no. The only way we will win is by, one, not being afraid, refusing to be intimidated, mobilizing, being serious, and being confident that we can win. Can we win? Can we win? Can we win? Look at what's happened to the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Right.
They stage this phony, pretend performance at the State of the Union address. They said before the election that if Trump was elected, that it would be the end of American democracy. Well, the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil is an indicator of what the end of democracy looks like, and the Democrats are not here, but we are here. This is the beginning of the epic battle. We cannot think of this demonstration as just one more activity. We have to fight now, like the fight for our lives, the fight for this country, the fight to end genocide,
the fight to stop a right-wing political dictatorship. And frankly speaking, the masses of people in this country are with us. They're not with Donald Trump, but we have to mobilize and fight and win. Thank you very much. Free Palestine. Free Mahmoud. Free Mahmoud. Right now. Thank you.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that Palestine will win. I believe that Palestine will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. As Brian said, this is a serious moment. This is not a time to be afraid or to be scared. This is not the time to stay home. This is a fight for our futures. This is a fight for our planet. And we must fight. Are we gonna fight? Are we gonna lay down and play dead? Are we gonna fight? Are we gonna fight by ourselves? We're gonna fight with the thousands and millions of people. In less than 24 hours, over 1 million people have signed the petition for the release of Mahmoud Khalil. This is not a time to be by ourselves. We must build with the millions and billions, because that is how we make revolution. Next up, I'd like to welcome Gustavo Gordillo from the DSA.
Hey everyone, my name's Gustavo. I'm a union construction worker and I'm the co-chair of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. Like Mahmoud, I came to the US with a green card, and I had one until I was 18 years old. Today, I felt like I wanted to cry, learning about the news about his detention. The White House posted Donald Trump's stomach training statement, which reads, ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. Donald Trump and the apartheid Israeli government he serves want to create a chilling effect where all of us feel free to exercise our political rights. This is retribution for standing up to US-backed genocide in Palestine. They chose Mahmoud as a target on purpose. They chose him because he's from a marginalized community. They chose him because they thought he would be an easy target. Now the precedent is set, and they won't stop with the marginalized. In the US, we're taught that the foundation of this country is freedom. But is Mahmoud free? No! Are all of us now free to protest the atrocities committed in our name? No! Are we free when we can't afford housing or health care? No! Are we free when many are too poor to live? No! Right now, the Republicans are teaching us a lesson about villainizing and dehumanizing. They make figures like Hamas and quote-unquote terrorists into effective enemies. I think all of us in the working class movement need to spend more time villainizing too. There are actual terrorists in the United States, but they are not Mahmoud Khalil, nor are they the students and working class people protesting Israel's genocide. And it is definitely not the Palestinian people. The terror comes from the capitalists and their pawns. People like the CEOs of weapons manufacturers, or Jeff Bezos, who wages class war against workers and takes away their freedom economically and at the workplace. The terror comes from their fascist government and their ICE squads. There are terrorists in the United States who deserve to be detained, and they sit high up in their offices, in the financial district, and in Washington, D.C. Their goal is to demoralize you. Their goal is to scare you out of action. Their goal is to bully you out of standing up for what is right, for the working class of the world. But we are not defeated. They cannot bully us when our power comes from standing arm in arm in solidarity with each other. Trump may not like it, but we all have rights, even those of us he hates. But unless we fight for them, our rights will become a meaningless legality. New York City DSA will always fight for Palestinian liberation. And today we say to Donald Trump and the entire ruling class, free Mahmoud Khalil.
Free Mahmoud Khalil!
I want to end with a chant. Repeat after me. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other and support each other.
We must love each other and support each other.
We have nothing to lose for our change.
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
That's right! Mahmoud Khalil must be released right now! He must be released right now because he is on the side of justice, he is on the side of truth, and he represents the majority of the people in this country. We see that from the millions who have signed on his petition. We see that from the thousands gathered here today. And we see that from those who have been organizing for the past 16 months against Israeli genocide, in the immigrants' rights movement, and against political repression in progressive movements generally. We know that Mahmoud and the attack on Mahmoud is just the first of many planned attacks by the Trump administration. We know that this is coming for the immigrants' rights movement. It's already hitting the immigrants' rights movement. We won't meet that with fear. We'll meet that with continued organization, and we'll meet that with strong political leadership. I'm going to call up now someone who knows a lot about both of these things, an experienced leader in the immigrant rights movement, Ravi from the New Sanctuary Coalition.
We heard that there are terrorists in this country. Do we know where they are? In the White House, right? In the White House. They are a bunch of terrorists and they are out to terrorize us. But we have been here for many years. You heard Fahad talk about 28 years from the day, the 9/11 and the NCS. We hear about all the times of the travel ban, but we also remember in 2018. Who remembers what happened in 2018? Right, where we are standing, this is exactly what happened in 2018 when they tried to take me away and deport me. Same exact reason, because I was outspoken against that administration, because I was outspoken against ICE and who they are, and the terrorism that they instill on our community. They want to terrorize us, they want to intimidate us, they want us to be afraid of them. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We will stand up against them. I want to share a few things with you. That Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a civil agency. It's a civil agency, which means that they do not have law enforcement, as they say. They call themselves law enforcement. Fuck that. They're a civil agency. Right? And not only that, they are part of the INA, Immigration Naturalization Act, which only adheres to non-citizens. So if you're a citizen and an ICE officer wants to talk to you, fuck off. Right? Stand up. They are not allowed to come to your home. They are not allowed to go into your home with or without a fucking warrant. Because they are a civil agency and it only applies to non-citizens. So you citizens need to stand up and push back wherever you are, at your home, at your business, on the streets, when you see them and they want to push back, especially if you look like me, especially if you look brown and black. They are going to come after you. They are going to target you. We are not going to allow that. We are going to stand up. There's one other thing that people don't know about Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's a plenary agency. A plenary agency is not bound by the Constitution of the United States. I'll repeat that because that is very important. They are not bound by the Constitution of the United States. They work outside the fucking Constitution. So legislation, Congress, the judges, the judiciary, they don't have to listen to anyone. Right? That's how powerful they are. Does that bring back memories of what happened in the 1940s? Yes. The SSS, these secret fucking agencies. I'm sorry, I have to stop cursing. These agencies that are secret, that are going to disappear people, that's what they want to be. But they are not going to be that because we are going to stop them. We are going to stand up. We are going to refuse to let them act on our home. This is my home. I was born in Trinidad, but this is my home. This is Khalil's home. This is Mahmoud's home. Right? We have been here. We are making this our community. You all are part of that community. We are going to stand up. We are going to fight. We are not going to allow this agency, this administration to instill fear. We are not fearful. We are strong. We are unafraid. And we are going to stand up and fight. Free Mahmoud! Free Mahmoud!
New York City, you will see!
New York City, you will see!
Mahmoud Khalil will be free! New York City, you will see!
New York City, you will see!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
When immigrant rights are under attack,
Immigrant rights are under attack!
what do we do?
Stand up like that!
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 We refuse to be intimidated, right? In our thousands and our millions, we refuse to be intimidated. Next, we will welcome Alexa Aviles, New York City Councilwoman, to the stage.
Hola, mi gente! My name is Alexa Aviles. I am a council member representing District 38 in South Brooklyn, and I'm the chair of the Immigration Committee. And I stand here in solidarity, shouting for a free Palestine. Mi gente, what we see is fascism.
That's right.
Someone just asked me, why are the flags half-mast? And the only thing that could come to my mind is the death of democracy under this fascist. But we say no. We say no to fascism. We say no. We are standing here in support of a free Palestine. We are standing, demanding the freedom of Khalil. If they cannot hear us, we must be louder. We must organize. They are coming for all of us. And it is us who will protect each other. ICE and the Trump band of bigots have no place here in New York City. So when they come in our neighborhoods, you make sure to let them know that they are not welcomed here. You take out your cameras and you photograph them and you videotape them and you let them know they are not welcome in New York City. So I need you all to organize, to bring your friends, to let them know that we are unafraid and we will fight for our rights. And we will fight for every neighbor that is under attack. They will not come for our trans siblings. We got your back. They will not come for our Palestinian siblings. We got your back. They will not come for undocumented siblings. We got your back. Thank you so much. Let's keep fighting, y'all.
Free, free Palestine!
Palestine. We
have to keep building this movement in as many different sectors as they exist in our city. As we've heard through this program, every single person in your community, in your church, in the groups that you attend, social events in, keep bringing more and more and more people into this movement. This is the way we will ensure the release of Mahmoud Khalil. This is the way we will ensure the release of Mahmoud Khalil. This is the way we will beat back these fascistic ICE attacks. This is the way that we will keep struggling for a free Palestine. And this is the way that we will continue to uphold everything that our various movements have fought for. I'm going to call now Tal from JVP.
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. Like I said, I'm here with JVP, with Jewish Voice for Peace, the largest anti-Zionist organization, Jewish organization in the United States. This afternoon, Trump tweeted out a taunt, Shalom Mahmoud. Shalom, using the language of the Jewish people to taunt a man who was abducted while his 8-month pregnant wife desperately searches for him. He did this in the name of the Jewish people, and we refuse. We refuse to allow him to weaponize our religion, to weaponize our identities. Jews in the United States know what it means when the federal government weaponizes terrorism laws and immigration laws to come after people fighting for justice and collective liberation. It happened to the Rosenbergs, it happened to the Holy Land Five, and we refuse to allow it to happen to Mahmoud. Not in the name of the Jewish people, not in the name of collective liberation. Absolutely not. We will fight for our Palestinian siblings every day. We will refuse to allow this fascist regime to continue to co-opt the idea of Jewish safety as a cover for its obscene, disgusting immigration policies, for the weaponization of its laws and of its immigration systems against the movement for Palestinian liberation. We will fight every day. Jews everywhere must stand up, and Mahmoud will be free. We say justice, you say how?
We say justice, you say how?
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Thank you. Free Palestine.
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Immigrant rights are under attack!
When immigrant rights are under attack,
What do we do?
stand up, fight back!
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 We're going to stand up and fight back. Next, I'm going to welcome Murad from the president of the New York Immigrant Coalition.
What's good, beautiful people of New York City? How are you all doing? Are you fired up? Are you fired up? If we're going to try to free and release Mahmoud Khalil, we're going to have to be a little bit louder. So when our communities are under attack, what do we do? When our communities are under attack, what do we do? My name is Murad Awalda. I'm the president and CEO of the New York Immigration Coalition. What we are witnessing today, and what we have been witnessing, not just under this presidency, but previously, is the inching towards fascism in this country. And now we don't have to say it's coming. It is here.
It's here!
It is shameful. It is incredibly shameful that our communities have to continue to endure under this fascist regime simply to deliver on a publicity stunt of a campaign called mass deportation. Shame. It has never been about safety and security. It has always been about cruelty, and that is their point.
And white supremacy.
Yes, it is white supremacy. This is blatantly unconstitutional on what they are doing to Mahmoud. The message that they are trying to send, which is a deplorable one, is that no one is protected under free speech in this country anymore.
Right.
Mahmoud and all people who live in this country are guaranteed due process.
That's right!
And this is not just an attack on Mahmoud because he has a green card. This is an attack on all immigrants who call this country home. A green card or any status can only be taken away through an immigration court process. But this fascist regime thinks that they are kings and can just issue a decree and that is it. But they have a rude awakening because the people of New York City, the people of New York State, and the people of this country will rise up.
Yes!
We will rise up to defeat those who have enabled it. And I want to say something that I know this rally is about ICE out of campuses, but we need ICE out of our schools, ICE out of our hospitals, ICE out of our communities, ICE out of our streets. They do not belong anywhere near any of our people. They do not keep us safe. And day in and day out, the only people keeping us community safe is each other. Keep that in mind. Keep fighting for Mahmoud and every other Mahmoud that we do not know today. And the biggest shame goes to Columbia University. The biggest shame goes to Columbia University for allowing ICE to operate on their property. It also allows them to continue to hide behind this fallacy that they have policies. What good are your policies when your students are under attack? Shame on Columbia. Shame on anyone who stands and says that this action is justified. Shame on every single person who continues to enable this atrocity to continue. Thank you all for standing up and continue to hit the streets, continue to raise up your voices, and continue to call every single one of your congressional members and demand the release of Mahmoud and every other person in detention. Thank you.
When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
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 We will not be intimidated. We will not be beaten back. We will not be made to feel afraid. We have gone too far. We have organized too much. We have built too much trust in each other, and we have built strong organizations. We will continue doing this. This is how we will get freedom for Mahmoud Khalil.
Right.
This is how we will get ICE off of our campuses and out of our communities. This is how we will ensure justice for immigrants. And this is how we will ensure a free Palestine. All of this takes work. All of this takes consistency. I'm going to call now someone who knows a lot about these things, Manolo from the People's Forum.
Free Mahmoud Khalil!
message for Trump. Yes. You think you can threaten us? You think you can intimidate us? Well, we have a response for you.
Fuck you.
We are not stepping back.
No, we're not.
We are not staying quiet. We are not going home. We are here to fight for Palestine. We are here to fight for immigrants. We are here to fight for all our rights. They made a mistake in arresting Mahmoud.
Yeah, they did.
Because they thought it would happen in silence, that people wouldn't react. But all we have seen across the country has been millions of people coming together to defend Mahmoud.
That's right.
And today, thousands have come together here in New York. Are you ready to march? Are you ready to march? But we want to do more than just march, because this moment requires each and every one of us to fight and to organize. Only the millions of people together, not just in New York, but across the country, can defeat and win over the fascists. So we're going to get ready to march, but I also want to remind you that we have our organizing meeting every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Who's coming to the People's Forum today at 6:30? Because they may have so-called infinite power. They think they have infinite money, but we have something greater than anything they have, and that's infinite people power. So let's get ready to march. We're going to start forming the front of the march to your right, my left to your right. And we're going to march, and we're going to be loud. Free Mahmoud Khalil! Free Mahmoud Khalil!
At home. Pete Aguilar.
House Democrats.
Free Mahmoud Khalil!
Free Mahmoud Khalil!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Release Mahmoud Khalil now! We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Hands off our students now!
Hands off our students now!
ICE off our campus 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 now!
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
ICE out of New York now!
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 Hands off our students 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 now!
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
We want justice, you say
Act.
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
ICE off our campus now.
ICE off our campus now.
Release Mahmoud Khalil 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 now.
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
Hands up our students now.
Hands off our students now.
We want justice, you say how?
We want justice, you say how?
ICE off our campus now.
ICE off our campus now.
ICE out of New York now.
ICE out of New York now.
ICE out of New York now.
The case of Mahmoud Khalil has dealt a severe blow to that trust placed in us by the world. My activist colleagues behind me on the faculty have for many years circulated petitions and signed open letters in support of political prisoners held by authoritarian regimes in places like Russia, China, and Iran. Now we're facing a horrifying reality that our own student, a member of the Columbia community, has become a political prisoner here in the United States. This is a dismal moment in American history. We must not go down this authoritarian path one step further. Let's not let this happen in the United States of America. Thank you very much. It's a very great honor to present Donald Lieberman, who's the President and CEO of the New York Civil Liberties Union. On a personal note, I must say that I have observed her work on the ground for decades. She is, among all civil libertarians, the one who walks the walk just as much as she talks the talk. And it's a great honor to introduce her.
Thank you all for coming out today. The New York Civil Liberties Union stands with the students and faculty at Columbia to condemn the Trump administration's cruel and unlawful detention of Mahmoud Khalil. It is beyond the pale. It's targeted, retaliatory, and an extreme attack on the First Amendment. And it reeks of McCarthyism. We call on the government to release Mr. Khalil immediately. Let's be clear. The First Amendment protects everyone in the United States. And this unlawful arrest and detention are obviously intended to intimidate and chill speech that the Trump administration doesn't like. Not just here in New York, but all across the country. And let's be clear on something else. The federal government has no authority to strip Mr. Khalil or any other lawful permanent resident of their status for participating in a public debate and advocating positions that the Trump administration doesn't like. Political speech or speaking out should never be the basis of punishment or lead to deportation. And what's more, Mr. Khalil, like every other green card holder, has a right to due process of law. The arrest and detention of Mahmoud Khalil is a gross violation of his constitutional rights and an abuse of immigration law. It comes as the Trump administration is trying to ramp up ICE raids and sow fear all across the city, all across the state, all across the country. But we will stand up to the Trump administration. We will not be silenced. We urge Columbia to stop pandering to the Trump administration. We urge Columbia to stand up for your students, to stand up for your faculty, to stand up for academic freedom and democracy. Stand up and speak out to defend Mr. Khalil and demand his immediate release. Free Mahmoud now! Free Mahmoud now! Free Mahmoud now! Free Mahmoud now!
Our next speaker is another professor, Yinon Cohen, Yerushalmi professor at Columbia and fellow of the Institute for Israel and Jewish Studies.
Thank you all for coming. And I'm indeed a member of the Institute of Israel and Jewish Studies at Columbia University. And the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil is deeply concerning and reminded me of the unlawful way the Israeli military treats Palestinians in the occupied territories. In the West Bank, the Israeli military often comes at night and abducts Palestinians from their homes, wrongly alleging political activists are members of a terrorist organization. As an Israeli American, I'm extremely troubled that such practices have been imported to the United States and manifest themselves on our campus. Rescinding visas, canceling green cards, and intimidating students and staff have become the tool of choice for stifling free speech and undermining the First Amendment. Columbia University includes Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Sikhs, and atheists, and none of us will be safe unless we're all safe. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor Nadia Abu El-Haj, the Ann Whitney Olin Professor in the Departments of Anthropology at Barnard College and Columbia University, and co-director of the Center for Palestine Studies.
Thank you. Mahmoud Khalil has been a public face of the student movement at Columbia Barnard since last spring. During the encampment, he served as the lead negotiator with the Columbia administration. A mature and gentle human being and a politically sophisticated thinker, Mahmoud tried his best to bring a peaceful end to that encampment. In the same spirit, Mahmoud tried to negotiate a resolution between students and the Barnard administration last week during a sit-in at Milstein Hall. He was filmed participating in that sit-in or being present there, and as a result, various people tweeted, including one of our colleagues, directly at Marco Rubio asking for his arrest and deportation. A Palestinian refugee raised in Damascus, Mahmoud fled to Beirut when it became too dangerous to live in Yarmouk. He eventually made his way to the U.S. to study. Now incarcerated in a detention center in Louisiana, his green card revoked. He is at serious risk of deportation. He may well be displaced again. Mahmoud's story, in short, is the Palestinian story par excellence. But let us be clear, Mahmoud has been detained for his political speech. It is political speech that some of our colleagues and students and many agitators outside the university and the college do not like. It is political speech that they have tried to shut down by slandering Palestinians and pro-Palestinian protesters as anti-Semites and even as providing material support for terrorism with absolutely no evidence to back it up. So let me say to all of you who have fashioned and promoted this narrative, that is, to each and every member of Columbia's Task Force on Anti-Semitism, to every colleague who has tweeted unsubstantiated accusations at individual students and student groups, and to the small group of Columbia students who have done the same. And to each of you outside the university who have participated, you did this. Your political speech has produced entirely foreseeable material consequences. Mahmoud is not safe. And that is not a matter of how he feels. He is in real danger, and each of you bear substantial moral responsibility for that fact. The narratives you have promoted have demonized and increasingly helped to criminalize simply being Palestinian in this country. And Mahmoud Khalil is paying an unconscionable price. Thank you. Yes.
Next, I'm very proud to introduce Council Member Sean Abreu, who represents me and much of the Columbia community in the New York City Council.
Well, good evening, everybody. If you think the people rescinding research grants, brandishing ICE as a tool for intimidation, and slashing offices dedicated to protecting civil rights give a damn about protecting students, you're wrong. I'm Councilmember Abreu, and I'm the son of immigrants. And immigrants know a thing or two about ICE. ICE is not about safety, ICE is about fear. I'm also a lawyer, and there's a thing or two I know about the Constitution. I know that in America, we believe in due process. And if you think the people who brought ICE to our doorstep care about safety, you are wrong. I'm here to let you know that we are paying attention and that we need to fight against this authoritarian regime. Thank you, everybody.
Our next speaker is Professor Nara Milanic of Barnard College from the Executive Board of the Barnard chapter of the AAUP.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Can everybody hear me? Thank you, colleagues, for being here. Thank you, members of the Free Press, as long as it lasts, for joining us here today. My name is Nara Milanic. I'm the chair of the Department of History at Barnard College, but I'm speaking to you today as a member of the Executive Committee of the Barnard chapter of the AAUP, the American Association of University Professors. As my colleague Michael said a moment ago, the AAUP was founded over 100 years ago to defend the basic principle of academic freedom, which refers to the freedom of faculty to teach, to research, and to speak out, as some of us are doing here today. This is my 20th year at Barnard, and I teach Latin American history. My academic background in Latin America has given me a sobering perspective on events in the last couple of weeks. Last summer, I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where I had the opportunity to visit an organization that provided legal services to the families of political prisoners during the dictatorship in the 1970s. Walking through the hallways of that organization, I passed boxes and boxes and boxes of files. My host told me that they were stuffed with hundreds and maybe thousands of writs of habeas corpus. These are petitions that the organization filed seeking the release of political prisoners who had been abducted and disappeared by the military dictatorship. When I read that Mahmoud Khalil's lawyer had filed a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf, I thought of those boxes of files. I thought of the many disappeared in Argentina, in Chile, in Brazil, and elsewhere. These dictatorships specifically targeted students, and they targeted faculty, and they targeted them for their political beliefs. I thought of the memorial tiles dotting the sidewalk at the entrance to the University of Buenos Aires, commemorating members of the university community lost to the dictatorship. Universities cannot exist when students are persecuted, arrested, and disappeared for their political beliefs. They can't exist when administrators call the police onto campus to resolve deep differences and difficult tensions with guns and zip ties. Universities cannot exist when their leaders do not stand up for the basic values of teaching, learning, expression, research, inquiry, and debate. Our worst enemy at this moment is the idea that the terrible things that happen during authoritarian dictatorships elsewhere could somehow never happen here, but they can happen. And indeed, we must acknowledge that some of those things are already happening. The AAUP calls on our students, faculty, and staff to stand together and to defend one another, as well as the principles of academic freedom. But we must recognize that this grievous attack on our university community is also an attack on our city, on our country, and we therefore call on all people of good conscience to stand up for democracy, to stand up for due process, and to stand up for our most basic constitutional rights. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor Mariana Hirsch, the William Peterfield Trent Professor Emerita of English and Comparative Literature and of the Institute for the Study of Sexuality and Gender at Columbia.
Thank you all for being here. Can you hear me? It's hard. There's a chill in the air, and it's not from the early March wind. It's the chill of fear and despair that is all too familiar to me. Since Mahmoud Khalil was detained on Saturday, it has brought back my most tormenting childhood memories. Since Mahmoud Khalil was detained on Saturday, it has brought back my most tormenting childhood nightmares. I grew up as a child in communist Romania, the daughter of Holocaust survivors in the 1950s. A knock at the door, the sound of a doorbell were never innocent occurrences. They recalled my parents' wartime stories of hiding, trying to evade deportation, hearing their neighbors being taken away. But for me as a child, they could mean that the Securitate, the security police, was coming for my parents. There was no schoolmate, teacher, or neighbor that could be trusted not to denounce us. And for what? Well, there was never a lack of a pretext to arrest enemies of the state, often a code word for Jews. But during all that frightening time, there was a word that offered hope of the possibility of living freely. And that word was America, or as my mother pronounced it, America. Surely a bit naive, but we came here believing in it, and a lot of me still does. I've spent my career, or a good part of my career, teaching about fascism and the memory of the Holocaust, so that what is happening now should never happen to anyone. I've spent the last year and a half working with a number of committed Jewish colleagues to preserve these basic freedoms on this campus. Freedom of expression, freedom to protest, freedom to speak out and to act against injustice. My committed Jewish faculty colleagues and I have warned that the false characterization of Columbia as a hotbed of anti-Semitism would be used as an alibi for what's actually at stake for the Republican establishment and now the Trump administration. Strict control of speech, of protest, and of higher education at large. It should be obvious to everyone that what's happening on this campus, or should I say to this campus, is not about protecting Jews. Sadly, the Columbia anti-Semitism narrative has been promoted and amplified by the Anti-Semitism Task Force and by this administration, and Columbia administration has conceded on every single point. Our group of Jewish faculty have argued vociferously for a clear distinction between an understanding of anti-Semitism as anti-Jewish hatred, which certainly exists, and the false narrative that criticism of Israel's brutal war on Gaza, a war that many experts agree is genocidal, can be equated with anti-Jewish sentiment. Student activism is not support of terrorism or of Hamas's violent attacks on October 7th. That's a shameful and deeply mischaracterizing conflation that is being repeated in the press. I'm glad you're here to hear me say this is not right. Pro-Palestinian speech and activism does not mean a lack of safety for Jews anywhere. The illegal detention and threatened deportation of a student who's a green card holder, have made everyone here unsafe, as my colleagues have been saying. Undocumented international students and faculty on visas, green card holders, and who knows, even naturalized citizens like myself. Not to speak of minorities and women and Jews. The chill in the air now is the fear and despair we feel as Colombia is being made a test case for the detention of activists and with announced funding cuts for the decimation of higher education in the U.S.
Our next speaker is Rabbi Jason Klein, the senior rabbi at Congregation Beit Simchat Torah.
Hi, I'm Jason Gary Klein, Columbia College class of 1997, and senior rabbi at CBST, a congregation that is serving people of all sexual orientations and gender identities. As a Columbia alumnus, I was shaken both by the news of $40 million of federal funds being withheld from Columbia by the Trump administration, and I was also shaken by President Armstrong's email over the weekend and the links that it contained, because they appeared to exploit anti-Semitism rather than actually have a cogent plan to combat it. And Mahmoud Khalil, I am mortified as an American, as a Jew, and as an alumnus of this institution that you have been taken into ICE custody, and I cannot even imagine what you and your family are going through right now. President Armstrong, I am concerned that you may not have done enough to protect Mahmoud Khalil and his family. This week's Torah portion, Kitisa, describes a vacuum in leadership that leads our ancestors to create an idol. One reason this section of the Torah is notable is because even Moses' brother Aaron, the de facto leader of the Jewish people in Moshe's place, takes no responsibility for the construction of the golden calf. Unfortunately, it's a very human thing to do, to shirk responsibility. Let's stop doing that. Let's not let each other off the hook for it. Today, we're calling out the outrageous absence of moral leadership coming from the highest offices in this country. I condemn the detention of Mahmoud Khalil and the withholding of federal funds from Colombia. They are not in Jewish safety. They are not in the interest, they are not in the interest of Jewish safety. They are a distraction from real acts of anti-Semitism, and they rely on weaponizing anti-Semitism. They rely on exploiting people's worst instincts to capitulate to tyranny. Whether or not I or anyone agrees with a particular opinion of a fellow Columbia lion, whether or not I or anyone agrees with the opinion of a fellow Columbia lion, it would be a grave mistake for any of us as Jews to forget that liberties such as free speech and the right to due process have allowed us to thrive in this country as well. So if you agree with one of Mahmoud's opinions, we haven't actually been on a first-name basis, Mr. Khalil's opinions, you may be outraged. And if you disagree with Mahmoud Khalil, I suggest that this is a good time to be even more outraged, because what happened to Mahmoud can happen to anyone. So let us call on ICE for Mahmoud Khalil's release. Let us call on the release of federal funds to Colombia, and let us call on Alma Mater to fight on for victory evermore, the victory of intellectual honesty and the victory of American liberty. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Sonia Posmentier, who's Associate Professor of English at New York University, and she's here to represent the Sanctuary Campus Network.
Hi, can you all hear me? My name's Sonia Posmentier. I'm a faculty member downtown at New York University. I'm also a member of the Executive Council of NYU's chapter of AAUP. So I'm here in solidarity with my colleagues at Barnard and Columbia and in solidarity with Mahmoud Khalil to demand his release from ICE custody and to call also on Barnard College to reinstate students who've been expelled for protesting the war on Gaza by Israel with arms from the U.S. I'm also here, as was said, as a member of the Sanctuary Campus Network, which is a new formation of college and university individuals from across the U.S. and Canada. There are currently over 1,000 people in that network, so I can't say that I'm representing all of them, but I'm here to say a little about the Sanctuary movement and the Sanctuary Campus movement. Sanctuary as a political practice and moral principle has deep religious and secular roots reaching back thousands of years. More recently, as many of you may know, in the 1980s, the new Sanctuary movement was one expression of transnational organizing to provide safety to refugees fleeing civil wars and genocide in Central America and to end the U.S. backing of those wars. During the first Trump administration, in the wake of the Muslim ban, we took this movement up on college and university campuses with a focus on protecting undocumented students and immigrant students and collaborating with immigrant rights coalitions in our communities. The National Sanctuary Campus Network came together this past December, because we know that all who are defined as outsiders to the MAGA state are targets. None of us is safe. Sanctuary on college campuses, the basic idea that it should be possible to study and teach and express political ideas freely without fear of unlawful detention or deportation is, believe it or not, a contested idea. When we first started organizing around Sanctuary at NYU many years ago, we were told, we're already a Sanctuary campus, just in everything but the name. And then when we said, we'll take the name, they said, well, that might be making a promise we can't keep, which was a little closer to the truth. Now administrators all across the country are trying to adopt a stance of neutrality or civility, but their version of neutrality is far from it. It upholds the Palestine exception to speech and critical inquiry. It upholds the banning of trans people from public life. Caving to Trump directives on DEI, social justice, and climate justice is far from neutral. In fact, it's taking us backward, creating restrictions on what we can study and how we can collectively transform university spaces. But let's be clear, it's not that our universities cannot make themselves sanctuary to all students. It's that they will not, as Columbia University has shown us most dramatically by enabling the detention of Mahmoud Khalil this weekend. So while faculty and students continue to push our administrations, we've also been building sanctuary among ourselves, because it's not just something we demand, it's something we have to make. And because of how important we are to each other, I want to acknowledge that we're living in a time of great fear, and to take a minute to acknowledge the courage of Mahmoud Khalil and all our students who are protesting against genocide in the face of this fear. And to ask if those of us who are faculty and have power and privilege to do so stand with them and take on some of that risk with them. The poet June Jordan, Barnard alumna, identified this courage when she addressed Columbia students sitting outside the steps of Hamilton Hall, which they had renamed Mandela Hall, in 1985, protesting South African apartheid. She said to them, and that is what you, the students of Columbia, say to all Americans as you sustain this protest. Fear of reprisals stops here with my body. Tyrannical rule and tyrannical force stops here with my body. Reprisals may come, tyranny may continue, but tyrannical rule and tyrannical force will have to deal with me, with my body, with my open and speaking big mouth, as long as I am alive. And it's in this spirit that we organize across the U.S. and Canada now to demand to become sanctuary campuses. Sanctuary campus means the end of war and occupation of Palestine. It means no ICE on or around our campus.
It means no threats of deportation against international students, faculty, and staff. Sanctuary campus means we can critically study systems of oppression, including racism, colonialism, heteropatriarchy, and transmisogyny. It means college should be free. Sanctuary campus means we try to build a free and just world by dismantling our campus's complicity in war and oppression. And Sanctuary campus means we keep us safe. Free Mahmoud Khalil.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jamie Biren, Chief Executive Officer of Bend the Arc Jewish Action.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Biren. I'm the CEO of Bend the Arc. We are the largest national Jewish organization that works exclusively on domestic policy. And we're a multiracial, multi-ethnic, intergenerational movement who is rising up for an American future in which all of us are free and thriving. A future free from white supremacy, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and racism. I'm also a graduate of the Columbia Business School and Institute for UJA Federation. I have a certificate from the Columbia Business School nonprofit program. And before I jump into my prepared remarks, I have some exciting news to share, which is that it is being reported that a judge has enjoined Mahmoud's removal until the court has the opportunity to consider the petition that's been filed on his behalf in federal court. And this is good news. And we still have to keep fighting, both to ensure that he is released and to protect free speech and oppose this broader mass deportation agenda. And I am here today because I know in my bones as an American Jew how dangerous it is when the government starts abducting legal residents that they disagree with. And I know how doubly dangerous it is when they are claiming to do that in the name of Jewish safety. If this administration truly cared about Jewish people or wanting to end anti-Semitism, it would be upholding our freedoms to speak, study, and stand up for what we believe in. Abducting Mahmoud Khalil and tearing him away from his family is an affront to freedom and safety for all of us, Jewish people very much included. This is a blatant example of how this administration uses anti-Semitism as a smokescreen to enact its plans to bully, blame, and ban people, plans that have nothing to do with Jews or our safety. At Bend the Arc, we have devoted much of our organizational time, resources, and power towards the work of ending anti-Semitism wherever it comes from. We do this because we understand how damaging anti-Semitism is for Jewish people, for this country, and for all of us. But let's be clear. Abducting Mahmoud does nothing to make Jews safer. In fact, it is just another way that the MAGA movement is using anti-Semitism to generate division and fear so that they can continue to grow their power and wealth for themselves and for their corporate cronies. All anti-Semitism is unacceptable. But this strategy, which we call smokescreen anti-Semitism, is particularly dangerous because it is used by people who have tremendous power. The same people who are trying to get away with using Nazi salutes from their biggest platforms are claiming to care about Jewish people and our needs, all as a cover for their despotic plans to harm all of us, as cover for their mass deportation agenda, which the vast majority of American Jews oppose. Jewish people will not be used as an excuse to justify MAGA plans to tear families apart. We know where that kind of division ends up. We are going to call Trump's bluff. We demand that Mahmoud be released from custody and returned to his family immediately with his green card intact. And we know that the only way we can truly end anti-Semitism is by locking arms across religions, races, immigration status, and gender, and insisting that freedom and safety for all is truly for all of us, no exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for coming. We have one more speaker, Rabbi Rachel Goldenberg, the Senior Rabbi of Malchut, and we'll have a press availability afterwards.
Good evening, I'm Rabbi Rachel Goldenberg. I'm Rabbi of Malchut, which is a congregation in Queens. But what really brings me here today as well is the fact that I am a fellow alumna of Columbia College of 1997. And my heart is broken. I and many in the Jewish community could not be more deeply troubled by the Trump administration's detention of Mahmoud Khalil without due process, as well as their cancellation of $400 million in grants and contracts to Columbia University, claiming as their reason the school's continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. This morning, reading about Mahmoud's detention and learning about his wife, that she's 8 months pregnant, I felt physically ill. I cannot imagine the fear and worry that he and his wife must be feeling right now, and I just want to take a moment to extend all of our prayers and care and support to him and to his whole family. These actions threaten democracy and the rule of law and endanger the entire system of higher education without making Jewish students any safer. Anti-Semitism is real. It exists in this country. It exists in all sorts of political movements. It even exists at Columbia. And it is also true that the majority of students who have taken part in the campus protests, including many Jewish students, did so peacefully and because they wanted the war in Gaza to end. It did not come from a place of anti-Semitism. If the Trump administration was actually concerned about fighting anti-Semitism, they would not be halting the work of the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, which is the body charged with such investigations. Nor would they be platforming white nationalists or those who perform Nazi salutes. It breaks my heart as a Jew who found my path to the rabbinate in large part due to my experience of rich and joyful Jewish life at Columbia, to witness how the Trump administration is targeting my alma mater and using the pretext of Jewish safety to move forward their xenophobic and authoritarian agendas. I am also angry and ashamed that the university has not stood up to these assaults on civil liberties and the rule of law. This week, the Jewish community marks the holiday of Purim. We celebrate the biblical story of how Queen Esther saved Persian Jews from destruction by the king's xenophobic minister, Haman. Queen Esther, herself a Jew, risks her life to reveal her identity, to speak up and protect her people. Today, the Trump administration is looking to a right-wing strategy that they have called by her name, Project Esther, which is an addendum to Project 2025, as they carry out these actions against Columbia University and Mahmoud Khalil. Project Esther weaponizes Jewish fear to drive a wedge between Jews and liberatory movements. Today, we here, standing here, invoke the true Queen Esther and stand up to the forces who would use our safety as a pretext to shut down legal, peaceful student protests, to detain an expectant father and green card holder, to suppress the movement for Palestinian liberation, and to destroy higher education. Today, we call for Mahmoud Khalil's immediate release. We call on Columbia to stand with us in drawing courage from Queen Esther's example, to resist fear, to resist intimidation, and to say no to collaborating with Trump's authoritarian agenda.
Much, everyone. That's the end of our planned speakers. If you want to stick around and spread out and speak to any folks, I can send them your way. But now is probably a good time to collect your microphones. Thanks.